Number 10. Mystery Moon Rock. There are some discoveries out there that scientists just can't explain, and one of the most recent comes from our very own moon. China's Yutu-2 lunar rover recently found what could be a surprisingly young collection of rocks while exploring the far side of the lunar surface. Basically, the lunar rover found rocks that are lighter in color than many other of the moon rocks, meaning that they are significantly newer to the surface of the moon than the other stones. This could lead to some huge scientific breakthroughs in the geological history of our moon. Upon closer inspection, the rover found that the rocks were not very eroded, meaning that they haven't been affected by the huge changes in temperature that occur on long lunar days and nights on the moon. However, the unexplainable part is that scientists don't know exactly what this means. Why would there be young rocks on the moon? There were quite a few of them, and they all appeared to be similar in both size and shape, meaning they are probably related. Still, even though the rocks appeared new on the moon could mean anywhere from 10 to 100 million years old. It's really hard to say. And the significance of these moon rocks won't be understood until quite a bit more investigation is done. Number 9. Skyquakes. If you've never heard of earthquakes in the sky, you're not the only one. And yet, skyquakes are a very real thing that scientists can't explain. Basically, a skyquake is a mysterious booming noise that happens unexpectedly during a clear blue sky. In November of 2017, residents from 15 different counties in Alabama reported hearing skyquakes at the exact same time, with booms so loud that some people called 911. A few hours later, the National Weather Service said that there was no explanation for the noise, while radar scans and satellite images of Alabama did not show any fire or smoke that could have come from an explosion. And of course, the United States Geological Survey spotted not a single sign of an earthquake on their seismic monitoring system. In the end, nobody had an answer for what the immense booming sound was. The phenomenon has since been labeled as a skyquake, and to this day they are extremely rare and incredibly mysterious. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that maybe it was a meteor exploding in the atmosphere, but not so fast. NASA scientists ruled that out immediately after, saying that there were no reports of anyone seeing a giant fireball in the sky. And when a meteorite explodes in the atmosphere, there is always a fireball. Of course, Alabama isn't the only place to have experienced skyquakes. They've happened in New Jersey and Idaho, and even in India. They may have happened in even more places around the globe, but we just don't know because people haven't reported them. Number 8. China's Stonehenge. A mysterious circular structure has recently been found in China that is being compared to Stonehenge in England, and the discovery has scientists scratching their heads. About 200 strange stones have been discovered in the Gobi Desert. Locals refer to them simply as the strange stone circles, with each formation varying in size and in shape, and with one particular monument resembling the shape of the sun. Experts believe that these strange formations were likely crafted by primitive nomads who worshipped the sun thousands of years ago. These same experts believe that these sites could have been used for ritual sacrifice, though what kind of sacrifice and what the purpose behind the sacrifice was is still a total mystery. But here comes the real kicker. The Chinese stone formations and the Stonehenge located in Wiltshire are incredibly similar. Both ancient structures are related to old races of people who worshipped the sun, and the stones used to construct each site were brought from outside the general area. But while the original Stonehenge has been dated and properly studied, the stone formations in China are still not understood. And while we know when they were built, we don't know which people actually constructed them, and we still don't know what they were used for. Have you ever been to China? What was it like? Did you see any historical monuments like these, or did you visit the Great Wall? Tell me about it in the comments below. Then remember to subscribe to Talltanic for more incredible videos. Number 7. The Colossi of Memnon. One of the most intriguing places in ancient Egypt is Luxor, home of countless wonders of the ancient world, including the Valley of the Kings and the Colossi of Memnon. But today's story is about the mystery surrounding the colossi, which were originally crafted in the 14th century BC as some of the largest statues in the entire ancient world. They were part of a mortuary temple constructed for Amenhotep III back when Luxor was still known as Thebes, capital of the ancient Egyptian Empire. To understand the colossi better, we need to take a look at Memnon. He was a mortal Greek from Homer's famous story Iliad. After Memnon's death, his mother Eos shed tears every single morning for her dead son. Eos was the goddess of dawn, so after the colossi were built, something very strange happened. They began to sing. After an earthquake destroyed part of one of the colossal statues in 27 AD, every morning a sound could be heard like singing coming from the huge statues. The Romans of the time believed that the singing was coming from Memnon's mother as she mourned for her son. This is how the Colossi of Memnon got their name. But now you're probably wondering how a pair of statues could possibly sing? The truth is that nobody knows, and by all accounts, they really did. Mind you, they didn't sing in the beginning. It wasn't until the earthquake that they began to make noise, and they don't make noise anymore. And yet, according to how stuff works, the Roman Emperor Septimus Severus repaired the broken statue and thereby stopped the singing. The best that scientists can come up with is that somehow the humidity from the broken stone mixed with the rising heat in the morning and created a noise that could be heard far and wide. Number 6. The global hum? There is something that people have begun to call the global hum, which scientists around the world are at a loss for explaining. Let me start from the beginning. The hum has been described as thick and low noise inside the ears, sometimes so stringent that it will permeate a person's entire home. It has been heard by roughly 2% of the population, with some experts claiming it's a mysterious auditory phenomenon. However, nobody's sure when the hum began or when people started to notice it. But we do know it started getting attention in the media during the 1970s in England. Regardless of just how many people have heard the hum across the world, governments and mainstream scientists have dismissed its existence fervently. They have chalked it up to a global paranoid delusion, saying that people who hear the hum simply have tinnitus, which is a strange ringing noise that happens in a person's ear every now and again for basically no reason. Here's where things get weird. Some people claim that the hum is a huge conspiracy in which the government is trying to brainwash people using ultra-low frequency attacks. But of course, every last theory is unproven and mostly hearsay. Have you heard the hum? Number 5. Before the Big Bang? The biggest question in the universe is, what came before the Big Bang? Absolutely nobody knows the answer to this question. And the scary truth is that nobody even knows if the Big Bang was real, which is why they call it the Big Bang Theory. Some people claim that the universe existed forever, with some saying that there must have been something before it. If the Big Bang was real, what started it and what was before it? If the universe existed forever, how did it get there in the first place? Why is our universe only a few billion years old? And where does the universe go when it's over? Basically, scientists have no idea. It seems completely insane that 200 billion galaxies exploded into the universe at the exact same time, 13.8 billion years ago, and are still expanding outwards from the explosion, which apparently began in an area smaller than the head of a pin. If you really dig down and think about it, it doesn't make any sense. But what also doesn't make any sense is what came before. According to an expert in the field named Carlo Contaldi from the Imperial College London, and I quote, "Nothing makes sense anymore." But of course, we are getting closer to solving this problem. But we can't solve it completely until scientists have a better understanding of quantum gravity and the existence of time. And both of these subjects are way too complicated to get into right now. Our smartest researchers will investigate this, and maybe in the next 100 years we will have an answer we lack right now. Number 4. Three Whale Rock. Three Whale Rock is one of the most spectacular natural wonders and cultural experiences that can be had in Thailand. The rock itself is something of a mystery. The rock formation formed about 75 million years ago, and it's currently sticking out of the side of a remote mountain forest in the province of Buangkan. This is about 466 miles or 700 kilometers from Bangkok. And if you haven't guessed yet, the beautiful landmark was named Three Whale Rock because it looks like a family of three whales. The big mystery about this rock formation, or rather the three main rock formations, is that they are incredibly smooth and very uniform. They almost look Photoshopped, but the truth is that they likely formed after millions of years of erosion, with rain sliding off the top of the formations, creating the smooth surfaces and the huge canyons between where the trees are growing. Still, this is the type of formation only found in Thailand, in this one region, and scientists aren't sure why there aren't more of them. Number 3. Where is Atlantis? The biggest archaeological mystery in the entire world is definitely the location of the lost city of Atlantis. But what a lot of people don't know is that this city of Atlantis probably never existed, since it was a mythical island nation remembered only briefly in dialogue written by Plato somewhere around 2400 years ago. In this dialogue, Plato wrote of a powerful and very advanced kingdom that sank overnight into the ocean in the year 9600 BC. Even at the time of its writing, Greeks were pretty well aware that it was simply a metaphor, and yet, fast forward to 2021, people are still adamant that somewhere beneath the surface of the ocean is Plato's legendary city. What you should keep in mind is that Plato claimed that the city was protected by the sea god Poseidon, who actually made his son the king of Atlantis. Then Atlantis sank, all because of divine punishment, after they grew too powerful and too unruly. But let's take a look anyway. According to the History Channel, there have been some pretty compelling archaeological evidence that scientists have yet to explain. For example, there is a suspicious undersea rock formation known as Bimini Road near the Bahamas. This road was found with what appears to be man-made stones in a straight formation, as if leading to some kind of great city. Some say this was once the road to Atlantis. Number 2. The Nampa Figurine. To this very day, scientists aren't sure if the Nampa Figurine is a relic 2 million years old or a hoax. It was allegedly discovered in 1889 by a group of workers who had been searching for water near the southwestern Idaho town of Nampa. They created a borehole about 295 feet deep, or 90 meters, and once they hit water, the pump began spinning out little pieces of clay. Amongst these pieces of clay, the workers found the tiny clay figure of a person, only about the size of a dime, which would turn out to be the infamous Nampa Figurine. The figure appeared to depict a woman or small child. Professor Albert A. Wright from the Oberlin College wrote in 1979 that the figurine was made by a true artist, not simply by some primitive caveman. But here's where the controversy comes into play. The formation that the workers drilled into was at least 2 million years old. That means that if someone really did create this figurine, they did so 2 million years ago. This, of course, is impossible, as human beings were not creating artistic figurines that long ago. We didn't even exist. All mainstream scientists and scholars still say that the Nampa Figurine is an impossibility. And yet, there's no denying that it could be real. Of course, the hard thing to reconcile here is that it must have been crafted by some kind of intelligent life form 2 million years ago. The questions are, who did it, and where did they go? Number 1. Slippery ice. Believe it or not, one of the strangest things currently unknown to scientists is why ice is slippery. Of course, we know ice is slippery. This is not a debatable fact. It's the nature of the slipperiness that has scientists scratching their heads. Generally, all scientists can agree that ice is slippery because of a very thin layer of water that is generated by friction, like when you walk across an ice rink. The friction from your feet creates a thin layer of water that you can slip on. But it's this tiny bit of water between your feet and the ice that has scientists baffled. The thin layer of water has never been properly measured. No scientist on Earth knows how thick it is, and even its very existence is the subject of heated debate. Even more mysterious is that liquid water is not a very good lubricant. which is a little confusing when it's so slippery on ice. In a new study from a physics laboratory in Paris, a team of scientists tried to get to the bottom of this mystery. They were able to demonstrate with their tests that friction does 100% generate a thin film of water. However, it turned out that the thickness of the water was roughly the same thickness as a strand of hair, way thinner than theoretically estimated previously. Also, this film is not just water, but a type of viscous water with almost the same consistency as oil, which is probably why it's so slippery. Still, even after all these tests, a lot of the "why is ice so slippery" question is still left unanswered. Do you have any theories about these unexplainable discoveries? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and be sure to subscribe. Number 9. Sheep's head fish. While fishing off the Melbourne, Florida coast recently, fisherman Paul Lohr caught a strange-looking fish with a zebra-like print and humanoid teeth. In an interview with Lad Bible, the 33-year-old angler described the fish's body as like a snapper-typed fish, very compact but meaty. He also mentioned that the creatures have a very strong bite power. Not enough to take a finger, but enough to make you never go near the teeth again. Despite its unusual appearance, the species itself is not rare. It's known as a sheep's head fish, and the creature is typically found on the Gulf and Atlantic coasts in the US. It feeds mainly on crustaceans and uses its teeth to crush barnacles, clamshells, and crab shells, according to Lohr, who added, "Then the shell comes out of their gills almost like a filter so they do not consume a lot of the shell." He further explained that the sheep's head fish is nicknamed the poor man's crab in his area, because its diet makes its meat taste like crab. The species grows to around 30 inches or 76 centimeters long, but Lohr pointed out that specimens of all sizes are incredibly strong, stating, "As soon as you hook them, they swim sideways with a lot of force, and so even a small one feels like a huge fish." Lohr released the bizarre fish back into the water after catching it. Number 8. Arapaima. A young boy named Edmund Getz recently encountered an Amazonian river monster. The bizarre fish had washed ashore on the banks of the Caloosahatchee River in Cape Coral, Florida. It was like gray in color with a really thick head, Getz told the local station WINK News. The 7-year-old and his mother both claimed that the specimen was as large as the boy. The creature in question turned out to be an Arapaima, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC, which confirmed that the fish is between 3 and 4 feet. Fully grown Arapaimas can reach lengths of up to 10 feet or 3 meters, and sometimes weigh over 400 pounds or 181 kilograms. Some people think it's one of the largest, if not the largest, freshwater fish in the world, explains Calusa Waterkeep John Cassini, who added that they leap out of the water at great heights. Besides being massive, the species is known for its aggressiveness. Additionally, Arapaimas are native to the Amazon. They're one of the many invasive wildlife species found throughout Florida and which threaten the state's ecosystems. Cassini and the FWC believe that somebody probably dropped the Arapaima into the river. I was pretty surprised initially to see a species that I hadn't seen before in Florida waters, Cassini said. Arapaimas are extremely resilient, having remained virtually unchanged throughout their 5 million-plus year existence. This potentially spells bad news for the less stable species in Florida, where the FWC is strongly encouraging people to immediately report any out-of-place creatures they cross paths with. Number 7. Mutant Shark. Indonesian fisherman Abdullah Nurin and his brother were quite surprised after accidentally capturing a pregnant female shark in their trawler net in the East Nusa Tenggara province. When they cut her open and found 3 unborn pups inside, 2 looked similar to the mother, while the third baby shark appeared mutated, bearing shockingly human-like facial features including 2 round, cartoonish eyes. Nurin told the media that he planned to keep and preserve the dead shark pup as a good luck charm of sorts. Neighbors offered to buy the specimen from him, but he is unwilling to sell it, according to the Daily Mail. "My home has been crowded with people who want to see the shark," he said. Marine conservation biologist Dr. David Schiffman told The Independent that the shark's facial features likely resulted from a congenital defect of some sort, and that it was probably not a new species. He tweeted that the condition may be something called cyclopia, which is characterized by two eyes with a fused orbit. Number 6. Paddlefish. While fishing in the Allegheny River near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2017, an experienced local fisherman named Aaron Thompson reeled in the most unusual catch of his life. It just took off, he told the CBS affiliate KDKA2 Pittsburgh. It kind of stayed in the water, then when it got so far, it came up out of the water. And that's when I knew I had something different. Then we fought for maybe 10-15 minutes before we got it in. Thompson's wife took photos and posted them on social media, where they received an outpouring of shocked responses. Some commenters speculated that the fish was a prehistoric monster, and they weren't too far off with this guess. The local Army Corps of Engineers picked up the specimen, which turned out to be an American paddlefish, a long-lived species that first appeared on the fossil record around 125 million years ago. Paddlefish are bottom feeders, meaning that they are not attracted to bait, but this one just happened to become snagged in Thompson's fishing line. He released it back into the river, telling the media in his own words, "A picture's good enough. You don't have to kill everything you catch." American paddlefish are identifiable by their long, slender snouts. They are closely related to sturgeons, another so-called living fossil specimen that has remained virtually unchanged for millions of years. Last July, fisherman James Lukehart caught a massive 70.5-inch long, 146.7-pound paddlefish at Keystone Lake in northeastern Oklahoma, nabbing the new state record for the largest paddlefish caught on record. He defeated the previous record set by his fishing guide, who, just a month earlier, captured a 143-pound or 65-kilogram paddlefish. Despite being bumped from the #1 spot, the guide showed good sportsmanship by providing a witness signature on the affidavit detailing the new record holders. Number 5. Longnose Chimera. Gary Goodyear, a fisherman from Templeman, Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, was shocked last year when he caught a species he didn't recognize while fishing for turbot in Bona Vista Bay. The crew discovered the strange, deep-dwelling creature after hauling the boat's net up from over 2,600 feet below the water's surface. Nobody knew what it was. I said, "Good God, what the heck is that?" Goodyear told CBC. "I've never seen nothing like that before. I thought it was a platypus, because he had that big snout on it." Measuring nearly 3.3 feet or 1 meter long, the fish looked like he had wings, and his nose was almost like rubber, in Goodyear's words. The perplexed angler posted photos of the creature on Facebook in hopes that somebody could identify it. He determined that it was likely a long-nosed chimera, and that he was lucky nothing bad happened to him or his crew while they handled it. "We didn't know it had a spine with venom in it," he said, adding, "It was just another fish to us, and we were handling that with bare hands." It's the strangest fish Goodyear has ever encountered. In his words, "To tell the truth, I don't want to see much more." Carolyn Meary, a marine biologist with the Newfoundland and Labrador Department of Fisheries and Oceans, said that long-nosed chimeras are related to sharks, skates, and rays. Hailing from the Rhinochimedara family, there are 8 known living species. These ancient fish, which are typically found 656 and 3,280 feet or 200 to 1,000 meters below the water surface, lack bones and are entirely cartilaginous. It has a long, pointy snout, Meary told CBC. Its green eyes are bright neon, which gives you that surreal or monster effect to it. She further explained that the fish Goodyear accidentally captured likely died while being hauled to the surface due to pressure changes in the water, adding that the fisherman and his crew were lucky that it was not alive, as the fish could inflict a bad injury if the animal was alive and flailing, thrashing about. Number 4. Out of Place Opa. Late last year, a group of fishermen made what they called a once-in-a-lifetime catch 80 miles off the Virginia Beach coast. A 143-pound Opa fish. This deep-dwelling species, also known as the moonfish, is typically found in tropical or temperate waters off the coast of the U.S., as well as Hawaii and other Pacific islands. It's the only known fully warm-blooded fish. The group, consisting of friends John Wetherington, Michael McTaggart, and Nick Kemp, believed that they had made the first ever Opa catch on record in Virginia, which is a believable claim, considering that the species is not known to live in those waters. While the world record Opa catch weighed 180 pounds, most specimens weighed around 100 pounds or 45 kilograms on average, making the Virginia beach catch impressive in its own right. The men caught the gigantic fish near an area called Norfolk Canyon, where the water's depth drops from 300 feet or 91.4 meters to around 6,000 feet. They had spent hours trying to catch swordfish with no luck when the Opa bit the bait. 45 minutes of wrestling with the fishing line ensued before the friends managed to get the gargantuan fish on deck. The catch was so rare, other fishing boats didn't believe what the men had reeled in. But the pictures they took spoke for themselves, and at last update, the group was waiting to hear if they had made a record catch, as they suspected. Jellynose fish. Earlier this year, someone contacted the Florida Fish and Wildlife Research Institute with photos of an unidentified, unique-looking fish that they found on New Smyrna Beach. Researchers determined that the specimen was a jellynose fish, a group of ray fin fish from the Atelodopapi family, which encompasses roughly a dozen species across 4 genera. Knowledge of these bottom-dwelling deepwater fish, which also goes by the name tadpole fish, is limited due to their difficult-to-access environment, making the chance encounter one rare. Officials from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC, said that the fish likely washed ashore amid Gulf Stream currents and eddies. In 2009, researchers from a sea turtle conservation program caught a dead 6-foot-long, 2-meter jellynose fish off the coast of Bahia, Brazil. At first, scientists didn't recognize the creature. They eventually identified it as a member of the Atelodopapi family, but were unable to determine whether it was a previously unknown species. These fish are known for their scaleless bodies and soft, blunt noses, and were first discovered in the 1840s. They are found in many parts of the world at depths between 1,300 and 2,300 feet. Like most other deep-sea species, they are cartilaginous, and their bodies are not designed to survive at sea level or anywhere near it, making it highly unlikely for a person to cross paths with a lived specimen. Number 2. New species. While anchored off the coast of central Japan during an expedition in 2016, marine biologist Yoshihiro Fujiwara and a crew of other scientists captured a huge, bizarre, never-before-seen purple fish using specialized nets that descended all the way to the seafloor. Fujiwara was sure that someone else had seen the creature before, since these waters are so heavily fished, CBS News reported. But this was surprisingly not the case. Working with the rest of his team from the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, JAMSTEC, Fujiwara searched for previous references to the strange creature and found none, leading them to conclude that they had genuinely discovered a new species. Jan Jade Poulsen, a Denmark-based biologist, was skeptical when he first saw grainy photos of the creature, which the crew claimed weighed 55 pounds or 25 kilograms. Lucy Kraft told Dana Jacobson in a CBS This Morning interview earlier this year. Poulsen further explained that while it's not uncommon to discover big, bony fishes in the ocean's surface layers, it's extremely rare to find one at extreme depths. Dubbed Yokozuna, or sumo champ, the fish is an apex predator, according to an isotope analysis. Further studies place the specimen within the Aliphosophalid family of fish that exist worldwide and are commonly known as slickheads. There are around 100 known species. Based on a few seconds of video footage that the crew captured nearly 2,600 meters below the water's surface, experts believe that the Yokozuna is a strong swimmer that may cover long distances. But there is a lot left to learn about the newly identified creature, which is difficult to observe in its natural habitat. Number 1. Sea Lamprey. In early 2013, a photo of an alien-looking creature that a New Jersey fisherman caught on the Raritan River 2 years earlier went viral on social media. The 23-year-old angler, Doug Cutler, had thought nothing of the catch at the time. After all, these eel-like specimens, with round mouths filled with sharp rows of teeth, were a common sight for the experienced fishermen. The images of the catch went viral after Cutler's friend posted them on Reddit in a weirdest catch contest, and mainstream media quickly picked up on the story. The creature, known as a sea lamprey, measured roughly 3 feet or 1 meter long and weighed around 4.5 pounds or 2 kilograms, according to Cutler. They are parasitic, snatching onto fish with their sucker-like mouths and using their teeth-covered tongues to pierce the prey's skin and suck out their insides. Sea lampreys are considered invasive in some places, like the Great Lakes, where they pose a major threat to the region's marine ecosystems. But they are considered endemic in the area where Cutler caught one, as they are known to seasonally travel upriver from the ocean to spawn. Cutler speared the sea lamprey simply because he had never caught one before. He didn't eat it, even though some fishermen do. Instead, he simply took pictures and discarded the dead specimen. Number 10. Animal rain. Animal rain is one of the rarest and most unbelievable natural phenomena in the world, and yet it's 100% real. Animal rain refers to an incredibly rare meteorological event in which animals literally rain from the sky. What kind of animals? Well, mostly fish and frogs. The first documented case of animal rain was in the 1st century AD, when fish and frogs supposedly reigned over the Roman Empire. But that was hardly the only incident. Animal rain happened as recently as 2009, when dead tadpoles and fish rained down on the Japanese prefecture of Ishikawa. Then there was Louisiana in 1947, when fish rained down so heavily that cars and trucks were running them over. But animal rain is not some kind of magical event. It happens because of gusts of violent wind, which throws animals into the sky and sweep them into the atmosphere, where they eventually rain back down to the ground when the violent winds disperse. There are also several types of tornadoes called waterspouts that form over bodies of water, and these can sometimes suck fish and frogs out of their natural habitat and deposit them far away from where they were originally stolen. Number 9. The Eye of the Sahara. The Blue Eye of the Sahara is a very special geological formation found in the Sahara Desert that looks a lot like a giant bullseye. The formation is about 25 miles or 40 kilometers wide and contains rocks that apparently predate the appearance of life on our planet. It's situated in Mauritania, in northwest Africa. The eye is visible from space and has actually been used as a visual landmark for astronauts making the journey to and from Earth. But the way that the eye was formed is simply fantastic. Most geologists today agree that the eye was formed when the supercontinent Pangaea began to pull itself apart. This was many millions of years ago, as the Earth's tectonic plates have shifted many times since it first formed. The Eye of the Sahara was first photographed by the outside world in the 1960s, and until then had only been known by the local nomadic tribes. Geologists first believed the Eye of the Sahara was an impact crater, created by something from outer space, but we have since learned that it's actually a geological dome. The rocks inside the formation are about 100 million years old, and some even older. As Pangaea was breaking up to form the continents of our Earth, the Atlantic Ocean started flowing into the Sahara Desert. As Pangaea continued to pull apart, magma from deep inside the Earth pushed outwards and formed a huge rocky dome. The Eye of the Sahara is the scar left behind from this world-changing transformation. Number 8. Chocolate Hills. The Chocolate Hills of Bohol consist of 1,268 hills in the country of the Philippines. These strange geological formations have been baffling geologists for years. The hills vary in size from between 90 feet, or 27 meters, to about 400 feet, or 125 meters in height, and they basically look like thousands of molehills stretching into the distance. What's really unique about the hills is that they're all covered in nothing but grass. The hills appear chocolatey during the dry season, kind of like unwrapped Hershey's Kisses. Trees grow on the ground between the hills and at their bases, but there are no trees at all on the actual hills. Instead, the hills are covered in a few different grasses and ferns. The most popular geological theory for why the Chocolate Hills of Bohol exist is that they are the result of prolonged weathering of marine limestone. Experts believe the hills may have formed from uplifting coral deposits that erupted from the floor of the ocean hundreds of thousands of years ago, and have been molded into the shape of Hershey's Kisses by years of rain. Whatever the case, the hills are incredible. There is nothing else quite like them on the planet. Number 7. Lake Baikal's turquoise ice. The turquoise ice of Lake Baikal is one of the most spectacular natural phenomena in the world. Lake Baikal is the largest freshwater lake in the world, located in Siberia near the city of Irkutsk. The lake contains roughly 20% of the fresh water on Earth, and is home to at least 2,000 different types of flora and fauna. It's also the oldest freshwater lake anywhere on the planet, dating back around 25 million years. It's the largest and the deepest, and in the winter, it's renowned for its startling turquoise ice, a color of ice that is not found anywhere else in the world, at least not naturally, that is. So, how does Lake Baikal do it? Well, the turquoise color is possible because of just how clear the water in Lake Baikal is. The lake isn't polluted in the slightest, meaning that when the lake freezes in the wintertime, massive shards of transparent ice turn either see-through blue or straight-up turquoise. Have you ever seen crystal clear ice or seawater? Where did you go to find it? Did you go for a swim in the water at all? Tell me about the experience. Leave a comment with your story down below. But first, remember to subscribe to Talltanic if you haven't already for more exciting videos just like this one. Number 6. Snow chimneys. In Antarctica, there's a natural phenomenon known as a snow chimney. Snow chimneys are huge towers of ice and smoke that can be found near Mount Erebus, a volcano that tends to spew out hot gas and lava on occasion, positioned just above the McMurdo Station research site on Ross Island. Gas and heat seep through the sides of this giant mountain of fire and cause the nearby snow to melt. All of this melting creates ice caves along the sides of the mountain and along its base. These caves are then heated from the constant warmth of the volcano. Hot gases, including steam, force their way out of the caves, but the steam freezes the second it hits Antarctic air. The freezing steam creates a natural chimney of ice, some of which grow up to 60 feet or 18 meters tall. The area around Mount Erebus turns into a Dr. Seuss dreamland when the volcano erupts, with steam vents built from ice dotting the landscape. Number 5. The Woolen National Forest. The Woolen National Forest is known as the Avatar Forest. If you went back in time and watched the movie Avatar again, you would recognize this place immediately. The setting of the movie was actually based on a real place in the world, the Woolen National Forest. The forest here is made up of thousands of sandstone spires that formed about 400 million years ago through one of the most unique geological events in the history of the Earth. The result of this event can still be seen today in China. These spindly towers of sandstone are a huge tourist attraction. There are cliffside walkways, gondolas that can bring you through the shifting fog from one pillar to the next, and viewpoints that will make you sick with vertigo. It's truly a remarkable, one-of-a-kind place on Earth. But how could such otherworldly monuments form naturally? Well, the towers were formed from extreme ocean pressure. The entire area used to be underwater. Iron and quartz and sandstone formed a very dense layer at the bottom of the sea. The ocean eventually vanished. There was a sudden explosion of earthquakes, tectonic shifts, and erosion from glacial carvings, and the end result was that the huge sandstone deposit was broken apart into thousands of skinny stone towers, which still stand today. Number 4. Pyramid clouds. Clouds can form all kinds of silly shapes, but the coolest natural phenomenon that occurs with clouds is when they form superformations like the pyramid that was recently photographed hovering above Mount Fuji in Japan. The cloud formation is known as lenticular, and it was able to form because of special minerals inside the mountain that contain superconducting elements to create vortex waves. These vortex waves slice an ordinary cloud into fragments that look like disks, and they get smaller as they rise. The end result is what appears to be a pyramid of clouds hovering over the tip of Mount Fuji. It's not mystical at all, though it looks like something totally out of a movie or caused by supernatural phenomena. These cloud types are fairly common, though they are only ever seen above volcanoes or mountains. Because lenticular clouds are colder and denser than the air surrounding them, if there is no strong wind to move them, They will just hover forever in place without changing or dissipating. Number 3. Volcano Lake. Inside the crater of the Kawaiian volcano in Indonesia, there's a turquoise lake unlike anything else in the world. According to the NASA Earth Observatory, it is the largest acidic lake in the entire world. This magical lake has a pH level of as low as 0.13 at the center. That's insane. Lemon juice has a pH of 2, which is fairly acidic, but nothing compares to this. It also means the water inside the lake is almost 10 times more acidic than some types of battery acid. If you fell in, you would perish immediately, and your body would disintegrate in the corrosive water. Clearly, it's a very good idea to stay far away from this lake, and if someone offers you a drink from it, just say no. But how does the lake get its beautiful turquoise color? It's actually because of the different materials that have dissolved in the water over the years, specifically hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid. This is generally what happens when a lake forms inside the bowl of a dormant volcano. Number 2. Fairy circles. The Namibian desert fairy circles are small and very strange. In the Namib Desert, there are bare circles all across the landscape that look like little cigarette burns in the sand. There are thousands of them, and for the longest time, researchers didn't know what to make of them. The circles appeared to be random, they didn't seem to have any purpose, and it almost looked as if some kind of cosmic storm had rained down asteroids all over the desert, and these circles were their leftover craters. However, there have been some interesting theories put forward that could explain the fairy circles. One of the prevailing theories is that termites live underneath the soil. The termites worked to clear small patches of vegetation to create a permanent reservoir of rainwater that would seep to them below the surface, allowing them to sustain their little termite cities. However, that theory might not be correct. According to New Scientist, researchers working in the Australian outback have also found fairy circles, but no proof of any termites, adding more to the mystery of these seemingly inexplicable circles in the desert. It seems like these circles have to be caused by some type of natural phenomenon, but researchers haven't proven anything conclusively. Number 1. Dust storms. Dust storms are some of the craziest things that happen in nature. They're kind of like sandstorms, but even worse. In 2021, Beijing and other parts of China were hit by the largest dust storm of the last decade, with 6 people dying and 81 people going missing in Mongolia. Now, even though it was reported by the news as a sandstorm, in truth, it was a dust storm. The difference between the two is that sand is much thicker than dust. The particles just aren't comparable. Dust particles are significantly smaller and are able to travel much farther. Dust particles are also able to get lodged firmly in your lungs, a lot easier than sand particles can. But just wait a minute, because before you start talking about global warming, it's important to know that dust storms have ravaged China, or at least the area of the Earth humans now call China, for millions of years before humans ever made their appearance. During ice ages, massive volumes of dust were generated by advancing and retreating ice sheets, and all this dust settled over millions of years to form what is today known as the Chinese Lowest Plateau, an area larger than France and about 1,000 feet or 300 meters thick of dust. Alas, there's no sand apocalypse to be afraid of. Some studies have suggested that dust storms are increasing, but others have suggested they're decreasing. The truth is that dust storms are horrifying when they happen, like a blizzard of sandy particles that can choke people to death, but they are fairly rare. What's the coolest natural phenomenon you've ever seen? Let me know about it in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for more awesome videos from Talltanic.